videos, if there's something in particular you want to see or you want to know about, you know, let us know and we'll try to incorporate that in. But, you know, and as always, you know, the whole like, share, and subscribe. We're here. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. So just get the word out. But anyway, so before I turn all the noisy air conditioners and fans and all that stuff on the boat, I thought I'd give you guys a look around, and then I'll set you up someplace. I've worked myself kind of into a corner again, with the debris and the nonsense that happens when you're building. I've been kind of letting the space, you know, figure itself out as I go along, and I got to a point yesterday where I had to put the walls in, as you can see. Had to make some adjustments on that, and ended up just a little bit long on here, so of course I'll just, you know, mill that back. It's no big deal, but that closes the space up a little bit, so it's not as open as it was a very brief time ago. And as you can see, patterns get piled up and garbage ends up on the floor, and you know, I've usually have 1 or 2 garbage cans in every space, but actually getting stuff into them or hitting the mark, as it were, is not always the easiest thing. Let me cut a light on here. I got to go up and take that cover off that hatch up there so I can get a little light in here. But anyway, what we're doing is just kind of doing the fill-in work, getting the insulation in, getting new wiring put up. Slats have gone up on the wall. The cabinetry in here is pulled together. You can see the multiple location markers for the toilet that I've put in. New closet space. Decided yesterday I was going to go ahead and just box that out at the top rather than putting a top cover on it. So anyway, everything's just kind of out of control again, as far as trash everywhere and sawdust everywhere. And you know, I temped this in yesterday. I need to do the glue up on that and get that fastened together. But as you can see, it gets out of hand rather quickly. And then you have no place to walk, no place to put anything, no place to sit down. So, still have quite a bit to go on this space, but the bathroom area at least is getting pretty dialed in. So that's good. I got a little bit more blocking and insulation and stuff to do in there, and then that space will effectively be ready for finished material. I'll have to do the headliner panels and get those popped in, figure out where my lighting is going to be and get that hole cut in so that we can take those back and get those covered and get them ready for installation. We're going to do a different method in here. I found some more industrial hook and loop material, so we're going to try that. I would prefer to do that than to use all that trim like I did in the master. I mean, it looks okay, but it's busy, and I really was looking for something cleaner. So if we find out that that hook and loop does a good job of holding up the heavier panels, then we may go back into that space and pull those panels down and rebuild those without the trim, and just kind of minimize the trim. A lot of what we were trying to do in here is a minimalist thing. Keep things basic and simple and straightforward. Neither Gina nor I are into really ornate furnishings or trim or millwork in general. So we're trying to keep that theme going. We just want something that is, you know, clean lines and simple, but not modern looking necessarily. I need to get everything kicked on in here and get the air getting cooled down, because it's quite sultry inside once I start moving around. But I'll try to figure out a place to set you guys up so you can kind of watch as I go. But I'll just be I need to clean up again and get reset and reorganized, so that I can again continue to move around in this space. And then I've got the trim out work. You know, I got trim out case work here so that I can get doors built. These two back here and the two here will be, well, that'll be a double pair of sliders. That'll be a pair of sliders. That'll be more likely than not a flip down door. And then this will be a single open door. This door here will open back towards the door opening, and the main door here will swing in that direction. So they will interfere with one another. If one's open, the other one won't be able to. But so yeah, so just got to finish this overhead space up with insulation and blocking. I don't know what the hell I was thinking yesterday. I put that piece in, and you see how I let it back so that it would, you know, meet the curve of the ceiling. Well, it doesn't need to do that. What it needs to do is go straight across so that I can put a panel on it. But this is, you know, end of the day stuff, and you're thinking in that moment, not about the bigger picture. So that's bad on me. But anyway, so we're getting there. I gotta get the lighting wiring finished up into the overhead space so we can get overhead lighting in. We'll have probably a fixture over here, one back in this space, one probably right in there, and then one or two maybe back in over here. And that will, you know, finish out the lighting for the bathroom. That should be more than substantive enough to keep everything lit up. And of course, we've got this hatch here, but it's got a sunshade on it right now, and I need to go take that off because I need the daylight in here. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Again, I'll try to get you guys set up someplace so that you can watch this mess unfold. But appreciate y'all watching and following along with us. And we're just continuing on to try to get this thing pulled together. Gotten the shower walls up. Of course, you got to work some things out, like that ledge right there, because 3/4 inch now and 3/4 inch then, different things. Now that panel does have melamine on it, but it's not that thick, so it's just a different thickness of 3/4 inch plywood from 40 years ago to today. But anyway, so I still have to get in here and re-tab that, because I had cut the tabbing on that with the expectation of taking that bulkhead out, and I ended up using the bulkhead in place, so it's fully fastened and it's glued on the inside back to the hull, but on the outside I need to put full tabbing on that, bring that up, and then tab here as well and tab here, so that becomes integrated into the hull. Just makes that a lot more stable and creates a support base for the overhead. But anyway, we're working in something of a mess as usual, but this is a pretty low order mess compared to what it normally looks like. But this is our new entryway into our bathroom. Kind of hard to get a good angle in here because there's not enough space, but it's bordered in oak. The actual door, we'll use this. So this is technically the casing, if I can point the camera and my finger at the same place. So this is the casing for that door, and then this is just a pad out for the end of the wall, just a little bit of a feature to kind of give it a little bit of something. And then of course we still need to come up here and close the end of that end, same as we'll have to do over here, close the end of this end. These areas up here are kind of like just a big shelf unit that's underneath of what you can see up there are the hatches at the front of the salon. But yeah, so the closet had to be resized a little bit because I just sort of gave it a generic opening size that was balanced, knowing that the door opening was going to come in here somewhere, but I wasn't sure where yet. And again, like I said in another video, is that you start with an anchor line, and the anchor line in this space was this wall or this bulkhead, which created the placement for the shower pan. I had to create the shower pan, get that in place so that I could establish the true size of this, and from that build off to the back of the shower space, so the bench and the niche area and all that, trying to utilize as much of that space as I can. And of course a waterproof hatch is going to get put in there. In fact, I think we've got it, it's just at home. But a waterproof hatch will get cut in there, and then we may add shelving in there. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out when we get to that point. But very much of this is really just establishing the footprint and then trying to fill the space in efficiently. We've got a 2-door sliding cabinet here that's kind of deep, gives us a little bit of tall storage. This one back here, the plan was to put a flip down door on it, but because of where the toilet's going to be, and we've got that feature in the other bathroom, and I thought, what would be fun is just to leave that open and not put a door in that. Be a good place for like soft storage, like towels, things like that. And then of course the vanity base, behind the vanity cabinetry, double sliding doors on each side, and then a nice shelf space up top with a nice fiddle. And of course I've got to come back and skin this or veneer it. Working in the overhead, getting the insulation put up. You see, created a step valance detail that will carry around this corner. I'll get a block put in here, but carry around this corner and blend into that. And then of course you've got a valance here and an overhead panel that'll go up there. I still need to insulate these spaces, but all the rest of this is insulated and ready to go. All of the hull sides, all that black you see back there and what you can't see behind there, and what's going on back there is all closed cell foam insulation. This neoprene that we've been using all along works pretty well. Reasonably cost effective, but nothing on a boat is ever cost effective. I cannot implore you enough to avoid buying anything that says it's marine as much as possible. Try to find creative alternatives. Specifications are specifications, so if it meets the specs for what you need and it doesn't say marine on it, use it. Any place you can save money on this without you know, hindering value or quality is beneficial. But anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. I'm getting ready to come out of the bathroom space soon. I've got a little bit of trim and some overhead stuff to do in there, cutting panels for the ceiling, getting those ready for vinyl. And of course, we won't vinyl those, you know, piecemeal. We'll set up production and do the overhead for the whole space at the same time. But I've got to cut the panels and get them ready so that they can get epoxied and made ready. Sorry, I got a rogue eyelash going on here, but anyway, so we can get those, you know, cut and fitted and Velcro applied and all that, so that they're ready for foam and vinyl. We did straight vinyl in the back. I'm not real pleased with how that came out. I ended up with some, you know, little dimples and things like that in it that I don't really like. But the chances are better than not I'm going to end up stripping those headliners out. It's not that much real estate back there, and redoing those in a tighter fitment. The reason I did those with trim before is because they're big panels and I couldn't find a hook and loop Velcro type of material that I felt comfortable with supporting that weight. I have since been able to track some of that down, so I'll go back to the original plan of putting it up with Velcro, because again, I want to be able to get to the ceiling in all these places so I can get to all the hardware, you know, things like this, which is a turning block that's up there. And you know, you need to be able to get to this space. I don't have a massive amount of hardware sticking through the overhead in the V-berth area, but there is some, and there's undoubtedly there will be some more. I'm going to like I said, be moving into this space soon. I've got to get up here and get this chain locker finished up, that pattern right there, and those two pieces are actually the bulkhead halves for that. Would love to have done that in one piece, but two things: it's a little over 5 feet, which is not the end of the world. That can be worked around. But anything over 44 inches wide, I can't get through the companionway hatch to bring down here. So you'll end up seeing a lot of things like this came down in one piece, and it is 44 inches, and I'm telling you, it was still a game of Tetris trying to get it to fit through that hole, because it was, I mean, right on the limit of what I could get down there. It still took me 5 minutes of screwing around with it to find the perfect angle to get it down. And then handling a piece that big on this boat is just unpleasant. I mean, it's 44 by I think 77 or 78 inches. So it was push. So anyway, yeah, I've got to get the bulkhead in for that. I was holding off because I had a little bit more hardware stuff to do in there, which is now done. So now that just needs to be created and set, glued and tabbed in, and then it's ready to go. And of course, it'll have a hatch through it like the old one did, a couple of doors on there, so we can access that. Again, the water line for the deck wash is there. These are 2 deck cleats. And then of course the overhead holes and all that for the windlass go through there. And the windlass control unit will actually get fastened back inside. I do have another piece of conduit that I made, similar to the one that you saw me put in elsewhere. And that will go up in, well, actually it's up the middle of that right there is where that conduit went. But there'll be one up the side here as well. And that will accommodate the 2-aught cables that'll go up to feed the windlass. And again, like we talked about before, because I'm building a new battery bank in there, I'm going to take the 2 existing AGM batteries that are just a couple years old, don't have that many hours or cycles on them. I'm going to move them up front. This I think is going to get closed in, and we're going to put this space back inside underneath of the bunk. And then, because at some point we'll have a bow thruster in there that will be quite large, that'll have to be accommodated. And then again, I've got 2 8D AGM batteries, 280 amp hour AGM batteries that need to go up into this space with a charging system and control unit for the bow thruster. And those batteries will feed both the bow thruster and the windlass, and should do so without much, effort. It more than meets the amp rating for the for the windlass, and it certainly meets and I guess probably exceeds, or at least meets the bow thruster request for amperage. So we're looking at maybe getting a Vetus unit, but we're gonna have to talk to Vetus and see if we can't get one of those friends and family discounts, because those bad boys are not cheap. But that's a problem for being out on the hard. We've got to figure that out and get that unit so that we can install it when we're out on the hard. But anyway, so I'm just prattling on. I'll try to set you guys up as usual in here and try to get some film of what we're doing now, and we'll go from there. But I gotta shut this thing off so I can turn the fans and the ACs on, because it's a little steamy in here right now. So pretty well roughed in the head. All the fixtures are in place. Shower's in place. Put the valve and the shower arm in yesterday. We got them stubbed in and ready for. We need to get a coat of red guard in here, and then get the go board, which is this product here. It's a foam and fiberglass board. We use it in place of Durarock because it's, you know, infinitely lighter, but and it's very durable. You can use it on floors, you can use it on countertops, you can use it on shower walls, but it just helps to improve the substrate that the tile gets to stick to, so it's consistent, and it acts as another layer in the waterproofing membrane. But so anyway, yesterday there was if you guys remember, there was a pair of wires that came up and just were bundled together, twisted, and they may have had a union on them, but they had, I don't know, liquid electrical tape, and then had regular electrical tape bundled around them, and it was just a mess. The ends of the wires were hard because they're old school copper, because they hadn't been sealed well, the wires were hard, probably 6 inches or so into the wire. So anyway, all that stuff got cut away, put back together inside of a waterproof junction box. I still need to get in there and seal the base holes inside of that to really make that airtight, and that way it'll cut down on the corrosion potential. But I branched up from there up to here for an outlet because I figure at some point we'll probably hang a little TV up here. Getting ready to put the case goods in here, but in order to do that I had to get this in place, and in order to get this in place I had to get the plumbing done for the shower valve, so that's taken care of. Forgive my little goofy crap right here, but you know, you work with fixtures you have on hand. I just was trying to save a trip out to the hardware, so all I had were these outlets with a 90, so I went ahead and used that. And yes, I did use the threaded type, but I did that because, you know what, we need serviceability, and if we ever have an issue and we need to pull that out, it's a hell of a lot easier to unscrew that and pull it out of the way than it is to, you know, cut a pipe and do all that crap. So anyway, so this little mechanical chase got put in for the purpose of handling that and that little bit of wiring. This wire here is going to go to a future air conditioner as soon as I figure out which one I want and where I'm going to get it. Because this space, obviously, you know, between the V-Berth, which is a giant tool holder right now, the head, and then whatever this space ends up becoming, needs to have an air conditioner. So that reminds me, I need to do a square footage up here, or a cubic footage up here, so I can figure out what size air conditioner makes the most sense. But anyway, so that was the first step, getting that done. And then the next step was I had to get this transverse bulkhead in, because we're getting rid of this step in that's going to get sealed up, and this is all going to be one piece. And we're going to put a little hobbit hatch right down in here. I don't know if that's politically correct to say, but I really don't give a damn. So we're going to put a little hobbit hatch or hobbit hole in here so we can access this space up here, because up in this space, at some point, I'm going to have a bow thruster up here. But also I'm putting in the battery bank for the windlass and for the future bow thruster, because obviously they had 2-aught cable run from 30 feet away to feed that windlass, and that windlass is massive, and the motor in it is massive and draws a lot of amps, and both of those are high amp draw. So getting the power source as close to those as you can get is the most advantageous thing to do from an electrical standpoint. There's so much voltage loss, you know, pumping it from halfway across the boat, that it's not worth it. It's better to put this stuff up here. And I have those two 8D 280 amp hour AGM batteries that will be coming. Those are my current house bank. They'll be coming out of there, and then I'll put those up here to run that. I'll just update you as we go along, but if I can find good places to put a camera, then I'll certainly film what I'm doing. But I don't know whether people are really interested in seeing the bits and bobs, and if you are, then great, and let us know specific things you need to see. Or for you guys out there, gals that are doing the same thing that we're doing and doing refit work, if there's something in particular you need to know how to do, or you need some guidance on or whatever, reach out to me and we can either film a piece or I can walk you through it. I'm happy to help. So anyway, I'm gonna get off of here and cut a couple of air conditioners on because it got pretty stinky hot in here yesterday, just with fans running and all that. I've been trying to go without the air conditioners because they screw my sinuses up so bad, but I was sweating like hell yesterday, and I really, you know, I spent 30 years in the field sweating my guts out, and I'd like to not have to do that anymore if I can help it. Got questions or whatever, just holler at us and we'll go from there.